Hello everyone, and welcome to Autocrat. This is episode 112, Bridgebuilder. We are continuing today with the reign of Ancus Marcius, the fourth king of Rome. He's already proven himself to be no slouch, especially in the punching things department, with the events of the last episode sometimes dated in 625 BCE, so, about 15 years of his reign has casually gone by during all this. So, let's see how he gets on with more civilian matters today. You ready for this wild ride?
Totally.
Excellent. We'll see if it's actually a wild ride or just admin. As a first note, Orosius is silent about Ancus Marcius from here on in, but we do get details from some other sources. The Janiculum Hill, on the other side of the Tiber from the rest of Rome, was now placed within the borders of the city to avoid it being taken as an outpost by an enemy. Whichever one, we have quite a few of them. Rome settled inside the Aventine Hill for the first time, which I think we mentioned last time during all the pillaging and the deporting and the screaming, and fortified the Janiculum and brought it in the walls. Likely as not, they were thinking about defence against the Etruscans, given that it faces north where the Etruscans are. By absorbing it, Ancus brought a strong defensible point into Rome, and simultaneously robbed the Etruscan cities of it. Let's turn to the Aventine briefly, shall we?
Yeah, okay.
The Aventine is apparently 18 stadia all around, and at the time was covered in all kinds of trees. In fact, there were a lot of beautiful laurel trees, and one spot on the hill is known as Laurel Grove, or Lauretum, in Rome. However, sadly, the whole thing was in Dionysus' time full of buildings, including a temple to Diana, so goodbye laurel trees. The Aventine has a deep ravine between it and the other hills of Rome, which was later filled up. Marcius added this hill because, again, he saw it would be the first line of defence for Rome from an enemy. And the people from Telanai and Politorium we mentioned last episode were specifically settled here. A wooden bridge was built across the Tiber to connect the Janiculum better to the rest of the city, and apparently this was the first ever bridge across the river Tiber. Until Dionysus of Halicarnassus' day, the bridge was still preserved as it looked at the time, the people looking upon it as sort of sacred. Ancus was also supposed to have been the first monarch to move water into the city. I'm assuming this means aqueducts rather than, let's say, a tsunami, but I don't know for sure. He also made the protection of Rome stronger on the side of the city that was easiest to get to, building what is called the Quirites Trench. Now remember, Quirites is an alternative name for Romans themselves, with Romulus becoming the god Quirinus.
Yeah.
All of this population influx, from all the people being deported into the city, meant that crime was rampant. Ancus counteracted this by setting up a prison in the middle of the city by the Forum as a deterrent. It wasn't just Rome getting bigger as a city in the reign of Ancus. Roman territory also got bigger. Veii lost something called the Maesian Forest, and now Rome finally had a coastline. We haven't had one this whole time, and now we actually have contact with the sea. The port city of Ostia was constructed where the Tiber met the sea, and salt plants were built in the region. Now, for context, Ostia is located about 26 kilometres or so from Rome.
Nice.
My notes said 16 miles originally, but you surreptitiously deleted that while I was talking.
I would never do that.
You would never do that.
Except that I did.
Except, yeah. Dionysus is also impressed by Ancus Marcius' founding of Ostia. This is because the river Tiber did not yet have a harbour through which trade could actually flow. That said, it is perfectly navigable, and even large seagoing vessels can make it as far as Rome itself. It doesn't have any sandbanks to block access and is wide and navigable towards the sea, forming big bays. Moreover, it doesn't spread out and become marshland, but stays as one river all the way to the sea, so it's got its advantages. Judging from maps, by the way, this is still the case in the modern day. So, Ancus built the town of Ostia in the, quote, elbow of land, end quote, between the river and the sea. Boats are, from there, pulled or row up to Rome. Now, Sextus Victor agrees with all of the above, but adds that Ancus Marcius imposed a salt tax.
I mean, that same tax was abolished when the kings were deposed anyway.
Apparently. All I'm learning is Romans are really obsessed with salt during this time. Because of all Ancus' success in military matters, one of Jupiter's temples was also expanded. Now, have you enjoyed actually talking about Ancus in this episode on Ancus?
We haven't talked about Ancus yet.
Well, we've talked about his exploits.
Sure.
Well, we have to stop talking about them now.
Yes, because we must introduce a side character called Lucumo.
Lucumo. Yes.
He left the Etruscan city of Tarquini during the reign of Ancus and headed to Rome to make a life. This was an ambitious man who wanted to rise through the rank and make a name for himself.
Yeah, so who is this guy, Lucumo?
He was the son of a Corinthian Greek man called Demaratus.
Right.
As such, Tarquini was never likely to give him an elevated social position, so he hoped for a fresh start and better fortune in Rome.
Okay.
Let's give a bit more of backstory here.
Yeah, because we've never mentioned Corinth before, I don't think.
Yeah. Demaratus, who had fled to Tarquini following political issues in Corinth itself.
Okay.
Apparently, Demaratus was of the family of the Bacchidae. These were a family of rulers of Corinth in earlier days.
Right, sure.
Quick history lesson for you.
It snuck up on me.
The king of Corinth between 926 and 891 BCE was Bacchus, who had 7 sons and 3 daughters and took the throne from his predecessor Telestes. This happened in 747 BCE thanks to a revolt among the aristocracy.
Yeah, it's a bit janky, the chronology. As you can see, the 800s are not the same as the 700s, but nothing agrees with anything in this timeline. Basically, he's king now.
Yeah. Also, sequence kings were chosen from his descendants who also claimed descent from Heracles.
Because why wouldn't they?
The story Dionysus gives is that Demaratus chose to become a merchant. He sold his wares, you can make up what they are if you want.
Let's each come up with something. What was he selling?
Pebbles.
Pebbles. Okay. I'm going to say Tamagotchis.
My one is more usually probably findable than your one at that time, but sure.
Sure, but you've got to come up with something.
Anyway, he was selling them in Etruria, seeing as it was one of the most prosperous parts of Italy.
Sure.
We saw this connection between Greece and Etruria in episode 85, by the way.
Oh yeah.
He became rich and understandably didn't want to sail on, instead just becoming a trader in those waters. He walked the Etruria-Corinth route.
Ah, the good life.
However, Corinth soon fell under the sway of Cypselus, the tyrant.
Cypselus.
The point is, Cypselus doesn't like the Bacchidae according to the story. He took over in 657 BCE and Demaratus concluded that as a rich citizen in Corinth, he would be living with a giant target on his back, especially as he was a nobleman.
Makes sense.
So he packed up his belongings and relocated to Etruria. He married a noblewoman, who we don't know the name of and are going to call Eliza, and settled down at Tarquini. When his sons were born, he gave them Etruscan names, Arun and Lucumo, and he wed them to prominent noblewomen in their own right.
Sure. Okay, so Lucumo is one of 2 sons born to Demaratus, the other and elder one being Arun's. Is that right? Amazing.
Arun's had died before Demaratus, leaving a pregnant widow. Now, Demaratus had not known that his daughter-in-law was pregnant, and so his will and testament did not leave anything to his grandchild when he died. This child became known as Egerius, basically referring to his being in need, because of this.
Right.
However, this is not Egerius' episode, especially seeing as Dionysus of Halicarnassus doesn't even think he exists, or at least he isn't an acknowledged descendant.
So maybe illegitimate, or because he's disinherited illegitimate?
Who knows? Instead, it's basically become the episode of his uncle Lucumo.
Oh yeah, we're back to Lucumo again. So, a couple of days after the death of Arruns, Demaratus died of grief, leaving Lucumo as the only inheritor. Now, Lucumo was rich, but also became proud. He got a further needless ego boost when, as we briefly mentioned in the summary at the start, he became wed to a noblewoman called Tanaquil. This Tanaquil was not ready to live a humble life. She wanted the same luxury she had when she was unmarried. He's still living in Tarquinii at this point, by the way. However, Lucumo was hated as the child of a foreigner, and Tanaquil hated this. So she wanted now to abandon her hometown. She settled on Rome as the best place to go because it was a young and up-and-coming place where a man could make something of himself if he was determined enough. Who could forget the examples of the Sabine king Cassius or the Sabine Numa, or even the half-Sabine Ancus? Tanaquil easily brought Lucumo round to her way of thinking, and he had no love for Tarquinii as only his mother had been born there. I'm assuming there's a bit of ancient source sexism thrown in here. Anyway, the pair set off. They had arrived as far as Janiculum in their carriage when an eagle flew down and stole Lucumo's hat.
That's random.
It's an omen is what it is. It flew up and a minute later returned and put the cap back before flying off. Apparently, it screamed in the sky for quite a while holding it. Now, this might mean nothing to you or I.
Oh, it means everything to me. It might mean nothing to you.
Oh, you know what it means, do you?
Totally.
So does Tanaquil, I think, so what does it mean?
I mean, he's well versed in omens, just as all Etruscans, are.
Sure.
She knew this to be a good omen, as the eagle is the bird of Jupiter, and the omen was to do with Lucumo's head, which he called the highest part of the body.
Right.
It had basically taken a crown and put it on Lucumo's head with the consent of the gods.
That's quite a lot to infer from the fact that we took a hat off his head.
It makes sense. So, Lucumo and Tanaquil were now hoping for better things.
Okay.
With that, they drove in their Audi e-tron to Rome.
They had to push it the entire way because people wouldn't invent petrol or indeed Audis for another...
It's an electric car.
Oh. People wouldn't invent electricity for another 2,400 years or so. Anyway, once in Rome, Lucumo drew heads because of his fabulous wealth. Lucumo and Tanaquil purchased a house, and Lucumo changed his name. He became Lucius Tarquinius Priscus.
Oh.
And yes, it's the one from last episode.
Nice.
Did you get the connection, by the way? Tarquinius? Tarquinii?
I do.
Priscus, as we're now going to call him again, after a digression, lost no time in ingratiating himself in Roman society. To do this, Priscus publicly gave himself over to hard tasks instead of other people. Nothing he did would not be noticed, so essentially he's a born PR man. He was generous with money and in helping others. Dio spends quite a while flattering Priscus's servile helpfulness and good qualities. Word of all this soon spread to the palace, and soon Priscus was rubbing shoulders with and smooth-talking King Ancus. See, he's back.
Yay!
Ancus and Priscus soon became close confidants. Priscus became essential in all things, both in peacetime and during war, and we saw evidence of this last time when he led the cavalry. In fact, Ancus changed his will to name Priscus as the protector of his kids. And yes, Ancus Marcius has children. Who knew? Priscus...
I did.
You did? Okay, nice. Priscus, quote, had come to dominate, end quote, the king and his clique. Dio seems to imply Priscus was the guardian of the king's children even before he died, but it might just be an ambiguous reference to these same events that Livy mentions of becoming the protector in his will. So, that's pretty much it up until next time, so other sources roundup time.
Nothing from Appian.
Still nothing from Appian, that's right. Eutropius just agrees with the whole annexing the hills thing and Ostia. And that's it.
So we're going to leave it there for today.
We are indeed. Let's see how this smooth-talking Priscus, oh, and I guess Ancus Marcius, who's technically king or something, get on next time.
But until then, we wish you a very good time, everyone.
Have a great week. Eon, millennium, century, decade, plank time. Have a good plank time.
Bye.
Bye.